The second chapter of my book is called If You Ponder Suicide at Age 9, You're Not Like All the Rest. And the third chapter is called The Boy Who Lost His Hair Prior to Puberty. And I'm going to read from that chapter tonight. And the setup here is, I don't know how many of you were raised by single parents, but there comes a point where sometimes you are simultaneously single with the parent, and you end up being each other's dates on many a night. So at the point I'm going to read tonight, our protagonist, the Zinsky of the title, and his mother are simultaneously single, and they begin to go out. Zinsky himself at this point is 16 years old, and he is still recovering from his father's abusive beatings, which are sort of, have a double effect on him, in the sense that there's the physical abuse, and then there's the fact that he hasn't told anyone about the beatings, including his mother, and it's that trauma, which in a way that, trust me, is a bit more elegantly and authorially explained in the pages of the book, leads to his losing his hair at that early age. Anyway, enough explaining. Let me jump right in. I think the only other things you need to know are, let's see. Oh, just that some of us brought some food tonight to represent our books, and the official food of this section is sun chips. Okay. The 16-year-old Zinsky was a friendless 10th grader. My appearance could be likened to a barbell on its edge. I was a narrow stick, now 6 feet 2 inches tall, with cumbrous ballooning at the head, diameter 7 7/8, and feet, size 15. And one morning, when I came out of the shower, my head had transformed. Seizing a comb, in the anticipation there would be a wet mop attached to my scalp, I slouched before the defogging mirror and saw no follicles whatsoever, just an interminable Caucasian forehead. I was stunned. I had no recollection of hair coming off in the shower. I closed my eyes, hoping I'd awaken in my bed to find my baldness was only a vivid, palpable nightmare. But nope, I was bald, and that was that. I checked the shower drain for traces of my long black hair, but there was no sign of it. Again, I palmed my head for confirmation. Nothing but wet scalp. Again, the mirror. My pate remained a bare mountain from the Caucasus. My mother had already left for work, and there was no one around I could talk to. And the shock of the morning's events wasn't enough to overcome the internal wiring, already there at age 16, telling me I needed to catch the school bus at 7:30. So I threw on my Jets winter hat and went to school. I kept the hat on all day. I was quietly grateful that few teachers of my generation required hats to be doffed. That night, I showed my shocked but supportive mother what had happened. In the coming weeks, she and I saw several dermatologists and hair growth specialists, none of whom found anything beyond a sudden hair loss, remediable only through transplant surgeries. They asked whether I'd been going through a difficult time. No, I said, I'm fine. The hair loss triggered a deeper reaction in my mother than it did in me. It was as though Barbara became bent on becoming the girl of my dreams. Once my appearance made it apparent I wouldn't find that girl in high school. Granted, Barbara was now 46 years old, and her parade of boyfriends had slowed to a crawl, so she was more available on Friday and Saturday nights. Something I forgot to add is that Barbara is an English teacher, and so she and Ariel refer to the town they visit a lot, Great Neck on Long Island, as West Egg, and they constantly make a lot of Gatsby references to each other. All right, back into character. The West Egg Park District rarely skimped when it came to entertainment for its tax-paying residents. During summer, there were always free cultural events, if not an orchestra, then a musical or a jazz jamboree. The soundstage stood about 40 feet from the barrier wall, so that the beach and water were behind it, and in front of it was the park's preponderance of grassy space. Lawn chairs, lounges, and blankets covered the grass, reaching from the very front of the stage to the rear of the park, where another sandy area delineated a playground for children, sandbox, slide, seesaw, and swing set. It was here that I learned to pull and pump as a child, so that my swing could soar without the assistance of a parental push. One bright evening, as Barbara and I shared the swing set during an orchestral performance, she with her cigarette, I with my Gatorade, we were approached by a 6-foot man with thick gray hair wearing jeans and a polo shirt. I didn't recognize him, but Barbara stomped her butt in the sand and stood. "Holy shit," said the man, "is that Barbara Pratt?" By his use of my mother's maiden name and her reaction of embracing him, I took him to be one of her childhood pals. Barbara had grown up in Brooklyn and attended college at the state school in Buffalo, so through the years I had witnessed many encounters with people who knew her as Pratt. The man stared at me. I wondered if he was shocked about my baldness. "Is that your son?" he asked. "Ariel," I said, stepping forward, asserting my height advantage. Barbara continued the introduction. In a matter of 30 seconds, she explained away her marriage, my birth, her employment, and how we came to arrive at Stepping Stone that evening. The man, Todd Winnick was his name, was not a high school or college pal, but an old chum from a Pennsylvania summer camp. Winnick was alone and invited us to join him on his picnic blanket, which was much closer to the stage. "I'd love to, Todd," said Barbara, "but Ariel and I have plans to catch a movie. We were going to stop at the library, too." I felt like a hindrance. "Mom, why don't you catch up with Todd?" I said. "I'll walk to the library, return the books, and just hang out there. You can pick me up later." Barbara wasn't biting. "Nice seeing you, Todd," she smiled. Winnick went back to the crowd. On our way to the parking lot, Barbara asked, "Did you want to go to the library by yourself?" "I just didn't want to be a hindrance." "You're my date for the evening," she said, curling her arm around my waist. At the library, we shared a mahogany table. With our book choices piled high, we read and made notes on our yellow legal pads. I happily recall how one of my books that night was a biography of Walter Camp, the father of American football. Soon, my teen appetite was rabid. Waiting 30 more minutes for our pre-movie meal seemed torturous. "Mom, want anything from the snack bar?" I asked. After deflecting Barbara's predictable sallies about eating too much before dinner, I went downstairs, past the movie room and music stations, to the snack bar cafeteria area. Posted rules forbade eating elsewhere, so I lingered on a bench and crunched my Sun Chips. A revolving door in the cafeteria led to a carpeted hallway, which in turn led to the library's performance theater. West Egg students could schedule rehearsals and shows on this stage, and during my trips to the snack bar, I often heard the distant dissonance of electric guitars or the operatic timbres of musical theater groups. It was this stage that introduced me to many of Shakespeare's works, and also to rock operas by Pink Floyd and The Who. I just want to let it play the whole time. But on this day, the 16-year-old Zinsky heard a lone female voice. She ranged high, then low, then high again. But her high voice seemed on the low side. I had read somewhere that contralto was the lowest type of female voice and quite rare. I racked my brain for the term that was not contralto but one higher, mezzo-soprano. Leaving my food behind, I passed through the revolving door and into the hallway, practicing the question, "So, would you call yourself a mezzo-soprano?" I'd ask upon encountering her. When I reached the stage, I was too stunned to speak. A slender, red-haired girl about my age lay flat back atop a wooden ramp near stage left. She was completely clothed as was the teenage boy whose head was beneath her black skirt and between her tanned, shaven legs. Her bare knees were back by her chest where she could hug them. My unnoticed visitation lasted for perhaps 10 seconds, during which time my cock turned into a steel rod. I went back to the cafeteria to finish my chips. I devoured 2 entrees that night as Barbara and I dined at a Korean restaurant. We then saw a French-Polish movie called The Double Life of Veronique. My ability to suspend disbelief had not improved since my elementary school days. This film, where the same actress depicts 2 women, Veronique and Veronica, who live in different European cities, was a severe challenge to my earthbound cogitation. Assisted by my caloric consumption, I fell asleep within minutes, slouched down in my seat so my head could rest on the seat back. It was the first time my bare scalp felt the velvety surface of a movie theater chair. In future years, watching R-rated films would engender rampant masturbation. On this evening, my dry dream was only figuratively drippy. I discover anew the red-haired girl on the wooden ramp. She's fully clothed, sitting upright in her black skirt, holding a script. Her male companion stands 20 feet away at stage right. He reads the part of Cassius, and she, Brutus, from Julius Caesar, Act 4, Scene 3. He: "You love me not." She: "I do not like your faults." He: "A friendly eye could never see such faults." She: "A flatterer's would not, though they do appear, as huge as high Olympus." Brutus hears me approaching and looks up. "Good evening," she says, jumping down from the stage to shake my hand. "I'm Katie." Cassius leaps down and introduces himself as Gregory, or Greg, whichever I prefer. Greg asks if I'd like to join them for dinner on Middle Neck Road, West Egg's main drag. "Sure," I reply. Walking to a pizza parlor called Elio's, Katie takes my hand. Greg doesn't mind. In fact, he smiles, and it's then I notice his braced teeth, verging on perfect alignment. I become conscientious about my own crooked choppers. Midway through our meal, Katie, still holding my hand, asks why I'm not smiling. When I tell her, she kisses the bare crown of my head. I notice now her teeth are crooked too. "I thought all girls from West Egg had perfect teeth," I mutter. And then I awaken. In future years, I will emerge from such fantasies with besotted boxers or sticky palms. At this point, I find only a yellow legal pad on my chest, my left hand loosely gripping a pen. Thank you.